Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our returning listeners, and welcome if this is your first time listening.
Yes, we are thrilled you are here listening to our third episode of the Lion Pridecast, which is a podcast created by the Lansing Unified School District 469, located here in Lansing, Kansas.
Sharon, can you believe it's already our third
I
episode?
know, this is our lucky three.
Lucky three. The purpose of this podcast is to inform our Lansing stakeholders, being our community members, students, and staff, about all things education. We are your hosts. I am Miles Azzeh, Director of Teaching and Learning in Lansing USD469.
Yes, and I am Sharon Burns, the Director of Communications and Marketing. So for our returning listeners, you already know this, but if you're new, we interview a special guest every other episode. And since we interviewed the one and only Lansing High School Principal, Dr. Alan Penrose, last episode, we have chosen to focus this episode on a few topics that are near and dear to my heart, which are communications and improving the climate and culture here in our district.
Yes, we've had many a conversation, you and I, about how important this is. And I think it's important to many of us, a lot of us. But it's something that I think you've been tasked with a little bit.
Mhm.
Obviously, the communications part with your role. But I think it's best for the listeners to hear a little bit about you. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you've arrived where you are today?
Right. So I have 4 boys.
Mhm.
My life is crazy. 2 of my boys have graduated from Lansing. They actually started here as kindergartners and went all the way through the system. I also have a junior at Lansing High School. That's Merrick. And my youngest, my little happy surprise, Brooks, who is a 5th grader at the intermediate school. So I love this district. I've seen a lot here. When my 2 oldest boys were younger and going through the system, I found that at times communication wasn't the best. I relied on the teachers and a lot of times actually it's PTA to get information. We didn't receive a ton of district level communication. And there wasn't a lot of spotlighting the cool things happening, which, you kind of you heard about things. But yeah, it was kind of lacking in that sense. So when I was offered the communication / the PR job back, it's been in 2018, I was super, super excited. Yeah, I was able to, at that time, I not only was tasked with rebuilding the website to what you see today on there, but I was also given the opportunity to share the cool things going on in our district, in our classrooms, our teachers, our students, things they were doing on a daily basis. So that was super exciting for me. So
And
that's
you've
how, yeah.
really done a great job with that.
Thank you. So, yeah, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I've got the best job in the district. Yeah, getting to share those positive stories.
Talk a little bit more about sharing the cool stuff and focusing on communications, the recruitment and retention aspect of it. You also had another title a year ago, correct? Like you were almost, I don't want to say
Right.
splitting your time, but you were busy.
No, I
with,
was.
yeah.
Yes. So when I first took on the communications role, I was actually working part-time as the director of Lansing Educational Foundation, which is a fantastic, if you don't know about Lansing Educational Foundation, also known as LEF, if you hear that, it's a nonprofit attached to the school district that provides grants to the classrooms. So they do really cool work. And I was able to be the director of that for several years, loved it. But both jobs started growing to where it became difficult. And I didn't feel like I was able to really focus as much effort and really do the best I could at either one because I was torn. So at that time, it's been almost exactly a year ago. They made Superintendent Wessel and the board made the communications job a full-time job. So I turned the director of Lansing Educational Foundation over to the wonderful Kara Thompson.
Mhm.
She's fantastic. And I took on communications full time. So I was not only able to focus solely on that and be able to share the cool stuff going on in the district, but I was also able to kind of take on the climate and culture and looking at recruiting and retaining good employees.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that, a little more about that later on.
Right.
I want to come back to the communication aspect, especially since you've been doing it for the last year. Remind me again, was it in March or April that you got recognized? Somebody reached out to you, correct? Tell the listeners
yeah.
about
Okay.
that.
So I
know.
submitted an article to USA Kansas,
Mhm.
which is a publication. It's called Under the Umbrella.
Mm.
And it was talking about the communication sweet spot. They actually reached out to a lot of communications PR people across the state of Kansas, and my article was chosen. It was published in it. So yes, but it talked about the communication sweet spot. So it's going from, like I said earlier, when my older kids were younger, I don't feel like there was enough information going out, but we also don't want to have too much information. And I'm glad you brought this up because, as many of you know, hopefully our community knows, we had a strategic planning committee meeting about a week ago. And my job, I was tasked with facilitating a room to gather information from our stakeholders. So that would have been community members, staff, students, about communication and what we could do better. So it was very eye-opening for me because actually a lot of the things I heard, especially from parents, was that we were actually over communicating in a lot of cases. We had a huge swing, and that's I got a lot of great information from that. It's going to make me a lot better in my job because of it. But yeah, so now we're looking at, again, like the article is finding that sweet spot so we don't become white noise where parents aren't just getting flooded with information and then it's like I don't want to look at it anymore. I'm just getting sick of it. But it's finding that sweet spot.
How do you find it? So like, I love that happened, that we had the strategic plan. You got to hear from the stakeholders, and especially based upon your background with your older boys, it was probably eye-opening, like you said, like, oh man, I felt like there wasn't enough communication. And honestly, I think we'd rather have too much than not enough.
Oh, absolutely.
But what are you planning on reflecting on with that? Like, what are some
already started the ball rolling on something. So we had an admin meeting. So principals met last week. I talked to them about, the amount that's going out, keeping that consistent. So a lot of the stuff that I was hearing, it was more from the classrooms. So it's going to be training parents on how to set their notifications for like Google Classroom, Canvas. I think a lot of times they have it set and then they're getting every single update about every assignment. So I can see that being overwhelming. But it is, it's communicating, keep getting on the same page as a district as far as what we're doing. So everybody knows what the other one's doing. So we don't flood parents with a ton of information. So they're getting what they need, but not too much.
I was in that meeting, and I think you did a wonderful job of communicating that to the principals, and they seemed not only aboard, amazing. But like, yes, they are amazing.
Yes,
we have
so
like the best admin team.
We do, and they really see the value in communication, which I can appreciate. So they've been open to it. I think our communication from admin has been better than it's ever been. We have newsletters going out on a regular basis coming from them. Parents are finding places, they know where to go to get the information. So yeah, I'm really happy with this team of people, from Becca Dalton to Jennifer Kolb, Martin Altieri, Brooks Jenkins, Alan Penrose. Kudos to them. Yeah, great.
Fabulous team. We're lucky to have them. So I want to switch back, if it's okay with you. We talked about the communication sweet spot. We talked about not wanting to over communicate. We've talked about how the principals are aboard, and we're really going to help out the stakeholders, community members, and parents. Let's go back to that positive vibe information that you're bringing up, which I think would also really fall into that retention work that you said is a big part.
Right.
You have a role in that. I mean, it's you're tasked with recruitment and retention.
Right. And I think last May we sent out a climate and culture survey to our staff. That was great because we were able to pull a ton of information about, how teachers are feeling, how staff, not just teachers, but staff in general. So we were looking at that. For me, it's not only now sharing the positive stuff outward to our community and our stakeholders outside, but building that positivity within, because that's important. We want to keep these good employees. We've got a great staff here, and we're a team. And so I think that's kind of a wonderful thing for me to get the opportunity to work on, is building that positivity.
Especially with the, quote unquote teacher shortage that's happening right now, and the amount of things that are thrown at us post-COVID, things going on in the state, the looming state assessment. I mean, not looming state assessment, but just all the work that we do. Right. It's necessary and vital for us to make sure that we're focus on retaining. So what are some things we've done? A couple things I remember. There's the climate and culture survey to get us some baseline information. We're going to be doing our appreciation tours, but what are some other things?
I want to talk about the appreciation tours, because that's actually, you get props for that. You brought this idea to us, which was having appreciation days where Superintendent Wessel, Miles here, and myself go around with a cart and we just thank every single employee. Now, it's not done in one day because it is a lot.
Takes a while.
Every single classroom we visit, and we just tell everyone thank you, because we do, it's important to give props where they're due, and our staff is amazing. So that's cool. And it's also getting to know people.
That was good for me, because I was new last year.
Right. So that's, first of all, we've also last year started doing appreciation days where we recognize various departments. So not just our teachers, not just our paras, but also our custodians,
Mhm.
our business office here at the district office. They're amazing. They need to be recognized. I think a lot of times parents see their teachers and they think, yeah, teachers are great. Yeah, and they are great. But we also need to realize that there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes to make this an amazing district. So we do appreciation days. The calendar's on the website. I put that out there. We just had our first appreciation day it's been about a week for our IT professionals, our tech department. So if you want to look at those, and we go around, usually it's Miles, superintendent, and I, and just give little gift bags and just tell people thank you for the hard work they're doing. So I think it's just building that positivity and shining a light on those things and making people feel valued.
And that's really important. We talked a little bit about our amazing admin team earlier.
Mm-hmm.
What have they done, in your opinion, to help lead this retention work? Because I shared an article with them last year when we did
Mm-hmm.
our during admin meetings. I do this leadership studies. I call it, I think, Leadership 101.
Mm-hmm.
And the article I'd read years ago, which was teachers don't quit schools or buildings, they quit principals.
Okay.
And the idea of it was like they want to feel valued from their principal. They want to know that they have communication and they're supported.
Mm-hmm.
So what role has admin played? Specifically, you could talk a little bit about our new administrators that we have, or just in general.
Well, in general, I think the cool thing that I'm seeing this year, which we haven't done, is we are starting to see them recognizing standout employees. If you get the newsletter from your admin, I know Dr. Penrose does it. He does it every single week. He gives a shout out to employees that are going above and beyond. And we're doing that at the district level. As many of you know, the Board of Education does a monthly recognition for a staff member and a student. But our admin are doing that too. So they're recognizing these standout people, and that's important. I think the peers see that, and then they can celebrate one another. I'm trying to think of can you think of other ways they're doing?
Well, I think
had something I couldn't think of the other.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. There's a lot of times in their newsletters that they, I think Martin had talked about. He spotlighted Caroline Reynolds, I believe.
Yes,
recently.
he does it in his, and he also does a weekly email where he encourages the staff to give each other props.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really cool. You'll see the shout outs, and we keep that within. Maybe that is something we can share to the community, but I think it's cool. They send it, through an internal email to each other, just saying, hey, this person did great. And they recognize one another, which is important. And it's also, I think the admin are really good about giving a voice, which was important, that we heard through the survey that's an important thing. And I think this team of principals are good at doing that.
Yeah, one thing I'd say that all administrators have done a great job is sending me something cool that's going on in a classroom and telling me that I should possibly academic spotlight it on the website.
Right.
Because that is one that the community gets to see on the website.
Right.
And on my teaching and learning website, thank you for making that amazing, because I could never make it look as good as it does. But yeah, so they do a great job of that. All of them do. So
and we talked about this during Dr. Penrose's podcast last time. Is he has it? What is it? The name it and claim it.
Yeah, name it, claim it.
Yeah, he takes a picture of something going on in the building and then sends an all district email and says name it and claim it, and he highlights the project, and then the teacher who is spotlighted, no one knows who it is, and then that person has to jump back, reply all, and then explain the project. So that's kind of a neat thing that they do. Yeah, like that too. Something else, it's not just our administration, but also our mental health team. They have made the emotional well-being of our staff a priority this year. So I met with Jake Hansen, who's one of our school psychologists, a couple weeks ago, and it was a fantastic meeting because he brought to me the idea of taking things off our teachers' plates to help alleviate some of their stress. And that also helps with climate and culture. So he came to me with the idea, and it's, really the gift of time is something we haven't really explored before here, but I loved the idea and brought it to our administration. This is another thing we talked about at our admin meeting last week, to get some ideas of how we can take some things off the teachers' plates.
I love that idea of the gift of time. I know the couple of times that I've been in either a PD session or when I was teaching at the high school level, a lot of times right before spring break, our principal would surprise us with, we'd always have right before spring break, staff student basketball, the game or some sort of pep rally right before spring break. And they'd always say the minute the kids are out, go enjoy your spring break. And it would be 40-45 minutes before contract time. And it was the best thing ever. So I think that idea of the gift of time, I think we sometimes overlook it. We think it needs to be something.
It's so important.
Yeah. So
if you'd ask anybody, they would say that's.
Yeah, absolutely. And he said the faster we can get home and put our comfortable clothes on and start binge watching some show or something like that just to relax, right?
Just unwind. Yep.
So what are some other ways? So we got the gift of time. We're talking about all these appreciation things. Are there some other ways to improve climate and culture and celebrating each other's successes?
Yeah.
Or,
So I think
things to keep in mind.
And I
as
think
we
I
go forward?
talked about this during our This I Believe episode. It's being able to explain to staff the importance of celebrating each other's successes. That's so important. And we want to try to get away from what's called the tall poppy syndrome. Have you ever heard of the tall poppy syndrome?
You were referencing it, and I'm glad you're bringing
Yeah.
it up in this because I don't think I have.
Yeah. So it's similar to the Japanese expression, nail that sticks up gets hammered down.
Mhm.
Okay. So it's based on the idea that poppies should all grow together at the same pace and height. So therefore, if one poppy grows taller, it should be cut down. And that's the same with employees. So if we have a standout employee, and this is something, when they do get the shout outs, they're doing something, outstanding that they should be recognized for. We don't want our staff cutting those tall poppies down. And I know you probably heard, and I think you've referred to the crab bucket mentality.
Yeah, that one's come up quite a bit in my past.
So the crab bucket is, the bucket doesn't, if you have a bucket full of crabs, it doesn't need a lid because they literally will sit, and each of them are trying to get out so much they just keep pulling each other down, and they know
almost sabotaging.
They sabotage. Yeah, it's terrible. So we're trying to get away from that. We want our employees to get used to the idea of celebrating one another, and that is like, I just talked about a minute ago about our admin are really good about this year about continuing to celebrate one another, continuing to do those shout outs. So we get used to it. We get used to cheering each other on and building that team mentality.
What do you think causes the crab in the bucket mentality? Like just that idea of like, I don't want somebody to be outshining me. I don't want, what do you think is probably something
I think that
we can attack?
It can be caused by low self-esteem by the other members, envy, resentment. It's, negative things that we need to look at of how we can avoid. So it's making our employees, everybody feel valued and important so that they don't start pulling each other down. They need to be pushing each other up, rising above, and then we're all going to be better for it. And therefore our students will be better for it.
And you're right. Really, it is just a climate and culture thing, isn't it? I mean, we have the climate and the culture that people are being recognized, and we want everyone to be recognized. Like, don't feel you need to be envious or whatever, insecure about something. Instead, realize this is a chance to everyone should try to be outliers, right?
Right. We all want tall puppies.
Yes. Any other ways to fight against it, or what are some other, in terms of, can our podcast play a role in any of this?
Well, I hope that teachers are listening, and they do, and I think being aware of it, realizing what you're doing, because that's it. I don't think people do it intentionally. I really don't. I think it's something, if we can give our teachers a voice, if we can have them all feel valued, I think that's going to be the first step. And, then keeping them knowing that no one should have a low self-esteem. No one should be envious because, we have amazing teachers and staff here. We should all recognize that and celebrate one another.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Sharon, I want to say that we are extremely lucky to have you here in this district.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything that you're doing. Before we end, I had an idea early on. And for people who listen, we started the last podcast with a question for Dr. Penrose. We gave him a couple questions to pick from. Do you remember that? And I wanted to start that with you. And I completely forgot because I love this stuff and I wanted to keep talking. So I'm going to ask you, can you share a time in your life? And I'm putting you on the spot here. All right. So don't freak out. But maybe meanest teacher. I think that was one of the questions that we asked Dr. Penrose. We also asked, I'm trying to think of some of the questions that we specifically asked Dr. Penrose. It was,
I think it was most embarrassing.
Oh, yes. Tell us the funniest story about yourself as a high school student. Senior prank was one thing. Tell us the most. I remember Dr. Allen was like, "Nope, pass."
Yeah, I know.
Tell us the most embarrassing thing that happened to you in school. Talk to us about the meanest teacher you had and why, or what was the most trouble you got into as a high school student.
I don't want to talk about the trouble.
Don't want to talk about the trouble.
No,
okay.
Yep.
What are we thinking?
Okay, I'm going to talk about the meanest teacher. It doesn't have to be in high school, right?
No, it's just the meanest teacher ever.
When I was in first grade, it was a substitute teacher, Miss Fanninsteel, and she wore a big brooch. I remember this, and it was scary. She was so scary.
Her name is kind of scary. Can you say it again?
Fanninsteel.
If she's listening right now.
And I knew my teacher, Miss Tona Shelley, at the time at Oakwood Manor Elementary, was going to be out, and she told us she was going to be out. And guess who was there?
Oh,
Miss
no.
Van and Steele was coming in, and
Oh, no.
I came to my mom and I said, "Mom, I don't feel well, and a stomach ache." She's like, "You have to go." And actually, I think no, I begged her so much. I think I might have shed some tears. Told her I had a tummy ache, which was nerves. She actually allowed me to stay home when Miss Van and Steele was there, and so my teacher was only supposed to be gone one day. So I'm like, oh, I dodged a bullet.
Uh-oh.
Went in the next day,
There she
came in, and I still see her sitting at the desk with that horrible, awful brooch. And I knew it. I was like, oh, and I felt, I have a vivid memory of that. So it's Miss Fan and Steel, and she was mean.
Was she?
Yeah, she needed to retire.
Okay.
No more Miss Fan and Steel. But yeah, that's my meanest teacher.
Thank you for sharing.
Luckily,
that.
I didn't have her all year.
Yes, it was just that, but unfortunately, I had to have her that day.
It was very memorable.
Thought you dodged the bullet, and there she
Yeah,
was.
I barely remember Miss Tonicelli, but I remember
Miss
Miss
Fan. That?
First grade.
First grade.
First grade.
You know, I went to Greenbush district training last week, district leadership training. I went with Alan and Martin and Sandy from the high school, Sandy Van and we learned a lot. And one thing that they had talked about was they asked this question. They said, what was the economy like in third grade? Like, you know, do you remember? And most people were shaking their heads and frowning. And what was the first assignment that you had as a third grader? Most people, you know, you can't remember something like that. And then the last one was, what was the name of your third grade teacher? And everybody, almost everybody, 80% of people were like, blah, 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 yelling at that. And I've done that a couple times with staff, and it's been hilarious how people like, yep, they know the answer to that one. And really, it shows like experience and relationship is what sticks. It's not always information. So thanks for sharing that. Unfortunately, Miss, what was her name again? And still stuck with you. But I'm sure that the actual teacher stuck with you too. Was she a nice teacher?
Wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful. Yeah. Oakwood Manor.
Sharon, thank you again for all this. We are very lucky to have you, and thank you for your work on the strategic plan and reflecting on the things that you heard from stakeholders.
Yes.
And thank you for everything you're doing with climate and culture, because that's really important.
I said best job in the district. So I think that's it. As always, for updates and stories on Lansing USD469, you can visit us at www.usd469.net. And if you don't already have it, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again every single episode. Download the free Lansing USD469 mobile app on Apple and Android. And that app will allow you to be the first to know all the fantastic things happening in the district. All the things we talked about that we share, it goes through the app, every single one. So get it.
And don't forget the most important thing sometimes for teachers. What else do you get first notification of?
Snow days.
Yep. If you like our content and want to stay up to date on the latest episode, please follow us wherever you are listening to us and leave a review to help others find us and learn more about our great district.
Yep, we are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, SoundCloud, and of course on the website. We actually have a banner now, like on the front page of our website, so you can listen to the podcast there. And please listen.
Yes, please. Yeah. Also, if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast, or even if you just want to give us some topics and ideas, by the way, we have gotten emails from people thanking us and just, kind words. Thank you so much. Keep them coming.
Yeah, and you can email me. It's Sharon, SHARON.Burns, BURNS at USD469 if you want to be a guest or you want a topic for us to discuss.
And I think that's a wrap on number 3.
We did it. Like 3.
Bye, everybody.